Okay, what's going on? All right, so I did some research and I got some statistics here, and I want you to take a listen to these. And I'm going to go through these statistics fast. So, my recommendation is to pause the video. So, if you're trying to take notes or if you're trying to digest what I'm saying, pause the video because I want to go through these numbers and then I want to talk about them. All right. So I want to go through them fast and then I want to go back and reference them. But these numbers are the difference between three things. It's the difference between a two-parent household, a single-parent household with a mother, and a single-parent household with a father. Now we know that it's more common for a single-parent household for it to be the mother. You do have single-parent father households, but they aren't as common. And there's a reason for that. And so when we start talking about things, I really want us to take our opinions out of it and we just going to stick to the facts. Remember, if you've watched any of my videos or ever heard me say this, then you know this is just regurgitation. Feelings are not facts and facts are not feelings. How you feel is irrelevant to what the facts are. In fact, feelings is just a measurement of where you are in terms of alignment with reality. So if a fact is something that you totally dislike and disdain and you can't comprehend it, you can't fathom it or whatever the case may be, or it totally goes against what you think, that's cool. But it still doesn't change the fact that it's the fact. And it still doesn't change the fact that you're not in alignment with the fact. Now, there are facts that you'll like and there's facts that you won't like. I'm not saying that you must like all facts. What I am saying is you have to be honest about the facts being the facts. And any chance of changing the narrative, you have to have acceptance of what the facts are. So I want to go ahead and run through these and then we're going to go ahead and step forward. Just give me a second. All right. So when it comes to single mother homes, these are some of the statistics. 85% of youths that are in 85% of the people that are in prison of the youth I'm sorry 85% youths in prison are from single mother households. 71% of the high school dropouts, single mother homes. 90% of runaways, single mother homes. So single father household stats resemble that of two parent households. So that's very interesting. So you have your two parent households and then you have your single parent households that are head by mothers. And the stats are starkly different. But when it comes to single father households, why are the numbers so closely correlated to the numbers of a two parent household? Not my opinions, just facts. Now, single mother homes, children are single mother homes, more statistics. Children are five times more likely. You're five times more likely to commit suicide, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to be chemical abusers like drugs, 14 times more likely to commit rape, 20 times more likely to end in prison, 32 times more likely to run away from home. That's for single mother homes. Now, single mother households accounts for 70% of all teen pregnancies and 70% of all child murderers. Now, the majority of filicide murderers, that's parents killing their children, happen in a single is the single mother killing their kids. So of all of the stats, that's what is reported. Now, when we talk about let's just take a single mother and a single father and we talk about meeting someone and then cohabitating with them, the numbers are crazy here too. So the average and the incomes as well. So the average income of a single father with two children is $40,000 versus the same for a single mother being 26,000. Okay. Cohabitation. Single fathers cohabitate with a significant other when they have children. 41%. It's only 16% for single mothers. Now, probably the thing that leans to it in certain areas is if they're getting government assistance, part of the government assistance thing is you can't have no man living in your house. So the government is your children's father and your baby daddies, and that's been the trick there too. Now, children are less likely from a two-parent home to end up in prison than a single mother home, but equally likely to end up in prison as a single father home. What I'm saying there is the single father statistics are similar to the two-parent household statistics across the board. But with single mother homes, they're more likely to end up in prison. Now, most of the time in the Pride of Lions, the lioness hunt together while the king looks after the children. So notice that too. So we can take our cues from nature. So if you're not religious and you don't want to get into all of that, that's understandable, because one religion and another religion, you just don't want to get into that. I understand. But we can take our cues from nature because nature tells us what we're supposed to do. Now, over 80% of children are born to a single mother household. So our children are choosing to carry before they marry. Now, emotions lead to consumerism, and prisoners and killers killed by parents more and dropouts are coming from the single mother households. Now, we just need to look around at our society and ask our society, is our society righteous? Is it functioning and operating right? Are the men acting like men are supposed to act? Are women acting like women are supposed to act? And the direct correlation to the women and the men that are growing up is a reflection on how they're being raised. When you are raised by a single mother, a lot of times you are, especially if you're a boy, you're taught to walk, talk, and think like a woman and process things like a woman. And some people show and some people don't, but at least from the mental processing of things, you're taught how to process like a woman. And a woman, she generally is going to use her feelings when she is formulating her thoughts. It's very important how she feels. But a man who's functioning and operating the way he's supposed to, he's going to take the feelings out of it and he's going to use logic. So a man is naturally designed to use his logic and filter his feelings through his logic so he can make sound decisions. Because the more important the decision is, the less feelings that you need to be putting into it. Kind of like if you hired your best friend and your best friend wasn't doing a good job and it was costing your company. That's a difficult thing to fire your best friend, right? Because you're saying, well, I don't want to mess up our relationship. But the reality is your best friend is not doing a good job and it's costing your company. So a lot of times you'll see people, they'll say, I don't want to make friends with anybody. I remember not knowing anything or talking to my landlord. My landlord didn't want to have a relationship with me. My landlord didn't want to know my family. Why? Because if anything went left, it would make it easier for him to do what he had to do, which would be to kick me out. But when they know you and they learn you and they understand you, it start tugging on their heartstrings. And so as a female, when you're making a decision, you got all of these different things tugging on your heartstrings, influencing your decision. So it takes you to master your emotions and use logic to think, or to get somebody to cover you and make sure that you don't make those errors and mistakes. Okay? So when we look at all these statistics, suicides, dropouts, drug uses, rape, prison, running away from home, why are the statistics so alarming under a woman? Well, it's because women are naturally nurturers. Even if they're out in the world and they become a version of themselves to be able to survive in the world, at the end of the day, at the core of them, they are women. And so women, they think and process things a certain type of way. And so when they are raising their children, whether it's no matter what the situation is, if they are single parent households and they are the head of the house, then that's going to affect the men in terms of when they're growing up too. That's why you have more men who are more effeminate, and then you have more girls growing up to be more masculine, taking on those roles. You can trace this back. You can go back to the Willie Lynch letters. What what Willie Lynch was trying to do is he was trying to remove the masculinity, and he was trying to promote the femininity. He wanted the women to make decisions. And what did they do when they made examples out of the strongest men in the community or amongst the slaves? That scared everybody. And then the woman, she was raising her boys to survive, and she was raising her girls to be independent and make choices and decisions. When the design is for a man to play a certain role and a woman to play a certain role. I'm not saying that men can't do things that women do, and I'm not saying that women can't do things that men can do. But everybody should fall into their element because every animal on this face of this earth know their role and what they're supposed to do. And whether you're in a species and you go from this family of frogs to that family of frogs, or this family of lions to that family of lions, or this pack of wolves to that pack of wolves, the the roles are relatively the same. The personalities are different, but the roles are relatively the same. You might have a fearless leader. You might have a leader that has, that has kindness that he shows. But at the end of the day, the roles are still the same. You can be a kind person, but if it's time to protect your family, you need to protect your family, and there's no room for kindness at that point. Same thing about provisions. You need to make provisions for your family as a man, and some people they provide with their hands, and some people provide with their minds. But nonetheless, the role is still the same. So, why is it that these numbers are so alarming for females who are raising and running their households? It's because that's not their natural design. Their natural design is to be nurturing, nurturing. And men are supposed to be integral in his children's life in terms of the shaping. Not just, no, men aren't supposed to just shell out money and say, have a nice day. But women are supposed to be the nurturers. Women are more detail oriented, and women are supposed to be there for all of the little details in terms of raising the child. But she's supposed to use her authority and submit it under her husband. Now, if you don't want to get married and you got a covenant, an agreement with a man before you have children, then that's fine. That's totally fine. We weren't always getting legally married. Remember, once upon a time, we were jumping the broom. Marriage is not the legal document. Marriage is the covenant that you make with one another. This is what I promise to do, no matter what. And this is what you promise to do, no matter what. And if somebody's telling you they promise to do this, that, and the third, and they leaving out something that's important to you, you can say, hey, look, don't forget this part too, because that's important to me. And that person can say, I ain't doing that. And then y'all go y'all separate ways. Or that person can say, okay, I can do that. And then they incorporate it. We got away from that. We marry for love now. And love is fine as long as the environment is conducive for it to thrive. If you don't have the right foundation for love, then love's not going to survive no matter how in love you are when you meet someone or when you get with someone. These numbers are out of track. These numbers are off track because we've removed the man out of our house. Out of our houses, we remove the man. And the government incentivizes us to remove the man. I'm talking about our women. They incentivize women to remove the man in an attempt to say, hey, look, I'll be your baby daddy and I'll be your father and I'll be your husband, and you'll depend on me. You'll get that check on the blank on this day of the month, and you'll get these benefits on that day of the month. And it sounds well and good to you initially because you like the fact that it's going to be consistent. But the reality is you can't do that because the government doesn't intimately know what's best for your children. And what is the pipeline for sending, getting you to do that? At some point, the government's going to call for them. And you ain't going to want to let them go. But it ain't nothing you can do. So that's something to think about. And this one's going to be quick because, I think the statistics, say it all. But when you make emotional decisions, they are bad. When our women are raising our boys and our girls, they are not using and teaching or leading by example with logic first. They are making decisions with their feelings. And this is why suicides happen, dropouts happen, rapes happen. Look, you see a girl, you want to have intercourse with her, and she doesn't want to have intercourse with you, you accept that. But when you're emotional and you want to do something and you're told no, you throw a hissy fit. And then that hissy fit, if it's not checked, later on will turn into you making a drastic decision because you want something. I had one time, my child wanted a banana and cried for the banana. Young, but wanted a banana and was crying for the banana. That child was emotionally tied to that banana. And it was incumbent upon me to show her how to separate that. Hey, listen, food is medicine. You just ate. You don't need a banana. You don't have to eat every time you feel like eating. Matter of fact, you shouldn't be making any decisions about doing anything when you feel or get a feeling about doing something, because usually it's wrong. So if we're not teaching our young men and our young women to filter their feelings through their logic, then they're going to grow up and they're going to make irrational decisions, and they're going to be the type of men that women don't want, and there's going to be the type of women that men don't want. That's why we have the crisis that we have today. We need to understand and recognize that we need to be honest with our problems. We need to be honest with the fact that women are not designed to raise children by themselves. It's not even for men to raise children by themselves, but men provide structure for children. Men provide discipline for children. And I don't mean beating children. Discipline is getting children to earn what they're supposed to earn, do what they're supposed to do, not coddle them, and help them learn to earn what they're supposed to earn and how to have appreciation and respect for the next man. Women, women survive on a different fuel. Women survive on love. Women have to be loved. Men don't have to be loved, but men must be respected. And so I'm not saying that women don't want respect, but what I'm saying is love is what it is. You show a woman respect by loving her, because if you're not loving her, then she doesn't feel anything for you, or she doesn't feel anything about that situation. Men, on the other hand, it's respect. So even when men are dealing with men, we show respect to each other right out of the gate until something shows us to do otherwise. It's just like when you meet, when two men are meeting for the first time. Inwardly, we are sizing each other up. We're going through our heads saying, I could beat him up. Or, yeah, it would take a lot to beat him up. Or whatever the case may be. Or, I could just easily take him. It's just how men think. Okay? But what that derives from is respect. So if a man is operating in his purpose, he's going to be respected. He's not going to have to ask for respect. He's not going to have to clamor for respect. And he's not going to go anywhere where he's disrespected. So men generally need respect. And so you can only give what you have. And so if a woman is with a man and she's being respectful towards him, and he's in an environment where he's being respected, That's the situation that a man wants to be in. If a man can't get that from a woman, he goes and he goes and he's by himself, and he gets respect from other people. But he generally just needs respect. And so when a man is full of respect, he's respectful, it works out. So when we're teaching children, look at suicides. When we're teaching our children, love yourself enough to say, even though it gets tough, I'm going to keep it going. When we talk about high school dropouts, look, you're going to finish what you start. I don't care if you like it or not. You're going to finish what you started. Drug abusers, we're going to say, hey, look, people who use drugs are people who want to ignore the issues that they have in front of them, so they sedate themselves or they get themselves drunk or high so they can forget about their problems and not address them and deal with them. Deal with your issues head on. When we talk about rape, listen, if somebody tells you no, that's what it means. No means no. If somebody is attracted to you and somebody wants to have intercourse with you, then and only then are you able to do that. But if you're not, if they don't, then you leave them alone and you have to go somewhere else. Okay? The old adage is women can have whoever they want to have and men have whoever they can. But that's why women are born and men are made. Men have to make themselves up to get the respect that they're supposed to get. I've been in, and I can tell you countless times, situations of people, women that I didn't think would disrespect me or wouldn't lose anything for me or whatever the case may be, but get them in a difficult circumstance and some stuff start coming out. Men have to always provide something to be able to I hate that, but it's the fact. Men have to always provide something in order to be respected and loved. They got to do that. Women don't have to do that. Women don't have to provide anything to do that. But a man is tolerant of a woman and her doings, whether they're good or bad, because it depends on his options. If he doesn't have a lot of options, he might put up with her doing X, Y, Z. But if he has a lot of options, if he's earned the right to have a lot of options, he's not going to tolerate that. So that's just the way that it is. When we talk about in prison, people are in prison wrongly and rightfully. So we have a mixture of people in prison for wrongs and right. But it's a disproportionate amount of prisoners that are brown. An overwhelming disproportion. Now, why is that? Because in our communities, we have single mothers raising our children, 80%, over 80%. So when a child doesn't have any structure, when a child doesn't exercise any discipline, then the child's going to get in trouble. The child's going to grow up and get in trouble, whether it's as a child, as an adolescent, as a teenager, or as an adult. That child's going to get in trouble because that child can't say no to things that they're supposed to say no to and can't say yes to things they're supposed to say yes to. That child is, if that child doesn't have discipline, that child doesn't understand the value of earning something. That child doesn't understand putting in work and earning it the right way. That child wants to take a shortcut. See, discipline says take the shortcut. But I mean, discipline says don't take the shortcut. But undisciplined says, yeah, take that shortcut. You're going to get the result faster. But if you don't understand what it takes to get something, you may not understand how it takes to keep it. So even with our women, having a man in, having her father in the child's, having a father in her father in her life. Because again, listen, kudos to the men out there, and I've done it before. Kudos to the men out there who are raising children that are not biologically theirs. Those children, you still take the risk of, if things don't work out, those children can be taken out of your life. And a lot of men are saying, well, you know what? I don't want to grow to love somebody and get attached to somebody and have them uprooted without, outside of my control. And you ladies, you females say, oh, well, you ain't a real man if you can't raise another man's baby. And it's just like, okay, but what's the risk and the reward? Would you invest in something that could give you like a 300% return, but it could wipe you out? You probably wouldn't invest your whole resources into that. When you take on another man's child, you're taking on a child that there is no promise that that child is going to not be uprooted out of your life. So men, if you're hell bent, excuse me, if you are stuck on being with somebody, being with a woman that has children, then you need to make sure that there's provisions in place to make sure that you don't lose access to that child because things go left. Adopt a child. This is your responsibility. Adopt a child because you're not going to be able to go to court and fight for your rights. But let me tell you this about fighting for your rights in court in terms of a father. They can they can give you rights in court, and I'm not telling you this as a myth. I'm telling you this because I went through it with my oldest child. You can go to court and you can get all of the rights you want for your child. But if the mother of the child does not want to cooperate with you and not want to let you see your child, this, that, and the other, whatever the case may be, I'm going to tell you what they told me. We can't enforce that. I said, yeah, well, I'm paying child support. We can't enforce that. That's separate. So, so ladies and gentlemen, this notion that a woman can raise a boy to be a man and raise a girl to be covered, women, mothers cannot cover their children like men can cover their children. Now, I know there's some rough women out there, some Harriet Tubmans, but you're not designed to do that. Now, I've seen with my own eyes, I've seen a man and a woman fight, and I've seen a woman get the best of that man. That is an anomaly. Most of the time, a woman is at a disadvantage if she's in a physical fight with a man. Typically, if you see a man and a woman fighting, you're going to go to the people are going to come to the aid of the woman. They're not going to come to the aid of a man. Matter of fact, if the woman is beating the crap out of a man, whether he's fighting, whether it's because he's not fighting back or she is just really skilled and she's just whipping the crap out of him, I still haven't seen anybody come to the aid of that man because they feel like, why are you letting a woman beat you? You're supposed to be bigger than her, stronger than her. You see what I'm saying? So we got to get out of this mess about letting. We have to stop. Uh, Ladies, I'm talking to you. You have to stop thinking that you don't need a man. And on the flip side, men don't need to think that they don't need a woman. We are interdependent. We're interdependent on one another. We need each other, but we don't need each other for the same things. We need each other for differences. Go look at these women out here who have opted to go out there and be boss chicks and on their own and doing their own thing, and they've been doing it for a while. Ask them if they're tired. How many of those women out there say, no, I love this. I love making all the decisions. I love being on my own. I love protecting my house. I love to safeguard my children. I love to do that. I love to be the sole proprietor person to do that. You're not going to find women that like doing that. And most of the time, if they are doing that and they get with a man, they retire. They retire from doing a lot of those things. A woman can be working. A woman can go to school and she could be using her 20s to live her best life, hot girl summers, this, that, and the other, whatever the case may be. She can get a degree, this, that, and the third. When she settled down with a man, if she settles down with a man, because only 1 in 4 um, brown women will get married. If she settles down with a man and then she gets pregnant and then she has a child, she don't want to work and pay significant bills. She tell you she don't want to work and pay significant bills. So then it's just like, okay, so what was the point in getting and then she does and then she wants to be an integral part of raising the children, right? What's the point in going to school and getting an education if you're not going to commit to doing that even after you have the children? Now, the women that are doing that, okay, cool. I ain't talking about you. Most women don't want to be responsible for paying significant bills in the household if she's living with a man. And if she is living with a man and she's paying 50-50, most of the time she feels like he's a roommate and she doesn't want a roommate. Or she feels like I'm taking care of him. Or if she had to pay all of the bills, she's sitting there saying, I, I ain't taking care of no man. And her friends are hyping her up like, you shouldn't be taking care of no man. He's a bum. Even if they have an agreement or whatever the case may be, her girlfriends will tell her her husband is a bum because she's making the most money. And why does she need him if he ain't? But the value of a man is not just his money. I mean, that's a part of provision, but it's so much more than just money. I mean, Donald Trump once said, "Hey, look, I'm not going to change the Pampers. I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do that for him, but I'll pay for him." And then some of you will be like, "Well, that's not the only thing there is to it. You just seem to put more value on the money side of it, but you want him to be a superhero and you want him to make money." And sometimes there's a trade-off. The more time that he spends at home dealing with you and the children, the less time he's out there provisioning and protecting. So you're going to have to, there's a balancing act to it too. And yeah, a wise man is going to try to put systems in place so that he has reoccurring revenue coming in passively. Then he has the luxury of being able to spend more time at home or doing other things. But at the end of the day, a man has to be out there in the world gathering and bringing home and protecting home. So he has to be home at some point, because if he's not home, you can't protect somebody if you're not available to protect them. So that's why it fits right into the criteria of a job, because when he's at work, he's at work, but when he's at home to be there to protect. That's why, working, it messes up the family, because you don't have any control of your time. That's why it's better to have a business. That's why it's better to have systems that run themselves, so you have your freedom back. And then you're supposed to be responsible and disciplined and do what you're supposed to do with your freedoms, which is spend time with the wifey, spend time with the children, do things, build things, teach. They need you there. And I'm not saying they're 100% of the time, because there's something about the mystique of daddy not being around as much as mommy. Yes, mommy's supposed to be around the children mostly. Yes, but that doesn't exempt daddy from not being around the children. Dad needs to be around the children too, but dad also needs to be sitting back, and he needs to be having some time to himself, and he needs to be able to, come up with provisions that's going to be good for his family in the now and in the future. But look at these numbers, man. These numbers are ridiculous. 20%, 70% teen pregnancy. You know, like, I'm talking to my kids about these types of things now because they have questions. And my thought process is, if you come and you ask me, that's how I determine the time. I don't do that. No, not now. If you asking questions about something, then I'm gonna keep it real with you, because if I don't keep it real with you, the cold world is going to give it to you. And then the cold world doesn't care about how and what happens to you once it gives it to you. And it doesn't care how it delivers to you. It's better for me to talk to my children about STDs than the world to give them a STD. And then they have to learn that a STD wasn't good in the first place. Teen pregnancies. It's better for me to tell my child about the pros and the cons of being pregnant without being married and having foundation, than for them to go out there and get pregnant and find out all of this stuff. Oh, you can't go out with your friends because you got a child, or you can't go here and spend money on this because you got to spend money on the child, and the child needs this and the child needs that. They need to learn from wisdom, not from experience. You see, you go out there and you try to learn from experience, and you're just going to get beat up. But you go out there and you learn from wisdom. Wisdom takes into consideration you as a person and your well-being. So if you can learn from other people's mistakes, or if you can learn from hearing instead of personally witnessing, that's going to be the best way to learn. Now, I know you're saying, well, our men aren't this and our men aren't that. Well, our men aren't this and our men aren't that because who's raising them? 80% of them are being raised by what? Women. Women. So if you want to talk about how a product turns out, all you have to do is go back to the origins of where it came from and how it came to get to this point. There's and then on that note, then if you're going to take on a responsibility and accountability goes hand in hand. But society teaches our women you don't have to be accountable to be responsible. If you're responsible for it, it's going to turn out the way it turns out because of you. And if it doesn't turn out good, it comes back to you as a woman. Now, some of you are forced, and some of you by choice want to do that. But what you can't do is you can't make, oh, you know, my child ended up in prison. My child ended up committing suicide. My child ended up running away from home. My child ended up doing drugs. You can't sit there and you can't say, well, if his daddy was around, then, it's his daddy's fault because his daddy wasn't around. Well, why wasn't daddy around? Let's look at the origins of that. And can we be real about it? Daddy wasn't around because because you pushed daddy out. So the reason daddy wasn't around because of you. Daddy wasn't around because when daddy tried to come around, you kept saying harassment and you kept getting restraining orders. Daddy couldn't come around. Daddy wasn't around because daddy wasn't around because you wanted to get government assistance, and government assistance said you better keep men out of your house from living there because your assistance gonna get cut off, and you said nothing over assistance. You didn't want to build anything with daddy. You didn't want to build anything with your husband. You didn't want to build anything with your boyfriend. You didn't want to do that. You had a child by somebody and you didn't even want to be with that person. That's right. A man, you say, well, it takes two to tangle. Okay. But if a man tells you up front he's not ready to have children and you get pregnant and you have that child and he told you he didn't want to have that child, and then you all of a sudden you're not getting from him what you think you should get from him, or the frequency or the amount that you're supposed to get from him, that you feel like you should get from him, whose fault is that at the core? Just because a man says, hey, look, I don't want to have any children, and then you end up pregnant, doesn't mean, oh, well, now I'm pregnant, so even though you don't want to have a child, now you got to step up. Yes, he is supposed to step up. But again, if you know that he is not ready to have a child, what kind of precautions are you putting in place to not have a child with him? You like him, you think he's cute, you think he's attractive, you like spending time with him or whatever the case, but he's just not ready to have a family. So the wise thing to do, leave that man alone and go find somebody on your energy level, somebody on your level, somebody that want to have a child, somebody that want to raise a child. Oh, and philosophies. Just because you think Junior did this and he should be he should be put in timeout, and daddy want to go and tear into his hind parts. You don't like that. Well, why weren't you thinking, do you like the guy and how the guy that you're with turned out? If you like the guy and you like how the guy turned out, then only the guy knows what it takes to be who he is. You have to trust that guy to be who he is so he can administer what needs to be done so your child can turn into what he is as a father, as a man. Oh, some of you ladies, you like how the man is, but you don't like the process. And that's something and I think that's something that you have to take into consideration. Like, you have to trust the process, because the process is not always beautiful to get to the maturation point. If that man is everything that you want your children to be, I see, like, I remember this. I was in college, I met this girl. And when I was in college and I met this girl, she liked what kind of character I had. She liked how it turned out. She liked how I thought about things. She liked my posture and my disposition. But then she didn't like the processes. And she found out the processes when we had a child. So she didn't like when I wanted to do this with my child, or I wanted to do that with my child. I mean, are you see, but that's what feelings get you to focus on. Feelings get you to focus on all of the things you don't like about the process. But logic gets you to focus on the outcome of what you want and what you desire. We have to make sure that we are, sorry about that interruption, but we have to make sure that we are being honest. We cannot be honest if we're in our feelings. Feelings keep us from being honest because feelings are hit or miss. If feelings are tied to the truth, then we can get honesty. But if feelings aren't tied to the truth, then we're going to get dishonesty. And dishonesty in feelings and honesty in feelings, they feel exactly the same. It's like women saying men aren't committed to relationships. I feel like men leave women. It's just like, but statistics show that that's not the case. 80% of all divorces comes from women filing divorces. That's I know that's not what it feels like, but what it feels like ain't what it is. And since it ain't what it is, then we have to adjust and recalibrate ourselves to be accepting of what things are. Now, when I say accepting, I'm not saying take it lying down, but what I'm saying is if you want to see change, you got to accept that change is needed. If women are sitting here saying we don't need men, we don't need them in the house. I'll raise my children by myself. Men are just donors, and that's all they good for. Men are this, men are that, da 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 da, da. And all of this disassociation with men and the lack of need for men, then what women are doing as a whole is discounting the facts. Because the facts tell us you're not doing an amicable job by yourself. But that's not your job to do it by yourself. You were created to help a man get to his purpose more efficiently, with peace and tranquility. And that's not, you're supposed to be that for every single man, but you find the man who you can agree with in terms of what his vision is and where he's going. But you making decisions, that's not a problem. You'll see a man, oh, he's got vision, he's got this, he's got that. And then you get mad because he doesn't realize his vision, but you're not taking a look and seeing what role did you play. If a man says, hey, he wants to, let me give you an example. If a man says he wants to start an insurance business, right? And you know that it's going to take money to start the insurance business. And every time he gets money, you spending the money up, buying clothes, shoes, bags, and stuff like that. And you can't put that off until a little bit later. And then you get upset because he doesn't accomplish what he's supposed to accomplish when you think he's supposed to accomplish. How is he supposed to accomplish it if he doesn't have the resources and the tools to accomplish it? Or those resources and tools to accomplish it are being squandered because of your high caliber of taste. Can you hold off on the taste until he gets to his place so he doesn't look like a disgrace and he can have money to waste? Because that's what all of that materialistic stuff is wasteful. But it's therapeutic for you. I get it. And men will go there to make sure that you are happy. So he does those things that go against what he's supposed to do because he wants you to be happy. But you need to have a little self-discipline inside of yourself. And if you don't have self-discipline beside yourself, you might want to look and see if you got daddy issues. Because if daddy wasn't around to help you exercise that discipline, listen, if it's up to my wife, I love my wife. My wife does an amazing job with the children. But my wife wants the children to be happy because that's her nurturing nature. But sometimes what she allows them or what she gives them might not be good for them long term. And I come in and I say, well, that's not good for them long term because of blah, 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 blah. And sometimes she might roll her eyes to the fact that I'm saying that. Or she might say, well, can you just, give them some breathing room, this, that, and the other, whatever the case may be. And I'm seeing the bigger picture and I'm just like, I can't do certain things because it feels good to them now. I have to do what's necessary so that they can be and have a better tomorrow. And that's the duality of us balancing each other out. Men are thinking about tomorrow. Women are thinking about today. You do need to think about today, but you also need to think about tomorrow. And if what you do today doesn't affect tomorrow, then you can do it. But if what you do today is going to have a negative effect on tomorrow, you have to have the self discipline to not do it. Some of you right now live in check to check. Some of you right now can't afford cable. Take cable out of the house and then put a goal in place so you can work towards getting cable. You know you want those luxuries. Some of you will take your check and you will go and shop and burn it up. And you'll be broke 3-4 days before your next check. Have the discipline to say, I don't want to be check to check. I'm going to sacrifice shopping and I'm going to sacrifice eating out. I'm going to sacrifice just doing these frivolous things so that I can have some money to have the resources to be able to produce something and make my money work for me. Some of you want it all right now. Some of you want it all right now, and you can't have it right now. You can't get to your destination and not sacrifice something. So ladies, and I use the term ladies and I shouldn't, because ladies don't have an issue with this. Because see, ladies and gentlemen are fully developed. They don't have these types of issues. The ladies are saying, I need a man. I need my man to accomplish what I need to accomplish. And gentlemen are like, I need my woman to accomplish what I want to accomplish. But if we're not being honest about the fact that 80% of children are born, especially in our communities, to single women, and we got the result of that. These women are raising boys that turn into the men that they don't want to date, that they wouldn't be caught dead with, that they talk about, these F boys that they say, or these mama's boys and this, that, and the other. Like, you're raising them. You don't like mama's boys, but then you have a child with a man and you won't let a man help raise that child. You got to be the head of every decision. You got to be head of every decision for that child. You don't care. You can't relinquish any control when it comes to that child because mama knows best. Well, I got news for you. You incubate the seed, but the seed doesn't come from you. The seed comes from a man. So how would you feel if you owned something and somebody told you what to do with it all the time? Wouldn't feel like you own it, right? This is what men go through. Men go through giving a woman his seed and her taking that seed and saying, it's mine. How is that child yours? Really and truthfully, that child doesn't belong to you. You're the mother of the child, but that child belongs to that man. See, that's another fact that you don't like. Some of you out here, Christians and stuff like that, you don't like the fact that your Bible says the seed belongs to the man. What do you think? What else do you think that it means? Really and truthfully, that man has the authority to raise his child however he feels is necessary. And guess what? The statistics back it up. So why is a single father versus a household with a mother and a father raising the children, the statistics are the same? Because the real rearing of the child comes from the father. Without it, there's no structure. No matter how structured a woman is, she cannot get too far from her DNA makeup of being a nurturer. And a nurturer can be an enabler. So even nurturing needs to be checked. Yeah, listen. When a baby cries, and when our babies were crying when they were infants, and my wife ran and got to them and held them and coddled them and this, that, and the other, whatever the case may be. And let's just say we were in the middle of us doing or having some kind of thing going on or whatever the case may be. In my human nature, I'm just like, it's like that baby can sense when me and mommy want to spend time together. But the reality of the situation is I understand that the child needs are at an all-time high when they're babies. And as they get older and a little more self sufficient, they need less. That's the sacrifice that I understand has to happen. Because in the beginning, the child needs milk, nothing else. Child don't need water. Child don't need meat. Why? Because because the most important thing to the child is that milk, preferably the breast milk, if she can do it. So the child needs that. Over the course of time, the child starts eating, child starts walking, child starts talking. And yeah, the child needs mommy and daddy, especially mommy, but the child needs a little bit less. So, like in my household, once upon a time, we had to keep eyes on the children 100% of the time. Now, we don't have to keep eyes on the children 100% of the time. We know what they need. We need to keep eyes on them for, and we know what they're going to be cool with. If my children are sitting down and playing, don't need to keep eyes on them because I know how they function. I know how they operate. I check on them, but I don't need to keep eyes on them 100% of the time. 100% of the time. If my daughter, I have a daughter, will get into anything when she was a little baby. So we had to keep eyes on her 100% of the time before she hurt herself. But my child's at an age where I don't have to keep my eyes on her 100% of the time for stuff. Now she's still curious. I still got to check on her, and mom still got to check on her. But it's not the same. When our children become teenagers and stuff like that, we probably don't have to. We don't have to do the same things that we do right now. Our oldest child doesn't require what our youngest child requires. But even though our oldest child doesn't require, we still check on her. We still check with her. We still keep tabs on her because she's human. She can get off. She can get off track. She can get off scale, and we're trying to rear her up to be the best person that she can be. But you're gonna have to. I'm telling you. I'm giving you all these stats, man. Look, suicides, dropouts, abusers, rape, prison, run away from home. They are serious issues. Prison, that's a serious issue. Teen pregnancies, serious issue. Okay. Moms killing their children, that's a serious issue. Why would a mom kill their child? I can't say it would be anything other than emotional overload. They got a feeling that consumed them so much, it created in them an act that they can't take back. See, you ever seen, you ever accidentally did something because you were angry, and then as soon as you did it, you knew you were wrong for doing it? That has to be what it's like to kill your kid. You ever seen that movie He Got Game? And he got in a fight. Denzel Washington got in a fight with his wife, and he pushed her, and she hit her head on the stove, and she died from it. And he served prison time. One moment of emotional decision can create a lifetime of outcome. So there's really no place for emotions. That's why women should always be covered because women are emotional. But women do need to be emotional. They just need to be in an environment where they're safe from their emotions. That's why it's dangerous when a woman goes out into the real world and she's not equipped. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. These statistics are real. You have to own that these are the things that are happening. Here's the thing about divorce. You can't be called married unless you have a legal piece of paper that says you're married. Otherwise, you're not acknowledged as being married. I'm not talking about common law and stuff like that, but I'm talking about marriage. There's a certificate. Can't talk today. There is a certificate that shows when you got married, right? So that's all documented down at the courthouse. Same thing when you get a divorce. You can't just leave somebody and be like, I don't want to be with you no more. And then you say, no, we divorced. No, you're not legally divorced. So unless you're legally divorced, that's what it is. So we're not getting sample sizes of how many children are born out of wedlock. We're not getting sample sizes of how many women are married when they have children. And we're not getting sample sizes of how many women are filing for divorce for one reason or another. That's not a sample size. It's like everybody is accounted for because it it has to be documented. So you can I know some of you will want to argue some of these things and try to make the anomaly the normality, but at the end of the day, it's not. Just because you see one woman doing a good job raising her child doesn't mean that every woman should raise their child. And go visit that woman that's doing a good job, and she's going to tell you the pains that she go through that are necessary to a person that you wouldn't want to go through. Yeah, I think my mom did a good job raising her children by herself. But as an adult, I had challenges when I got out into the real world in terms of discipline and in terms of my emotions. I had to make myself up to be better about my emotions because it was costing me every time I made emotional decisions. And I don't want my actions to cost me anything. I want to be disciplined to make sure that I'm making all of the right decisions. I don't need to. The more important the decision is, the less emotions that are involved are necessary. And people who make emotional decisions and it turns out well, by the grace of the Most High, it's only because they were in proper alignment with the truth. Because if I feel like, for an example, let's use one of these statistics. If I feel like teenage girls get pregnant because their daddies aren't around, and then the statistics support that, congratulations. I went with my feelings and it worked out. But if I feel like it don't matter if a teenager has their dad around or not, they just gonna get pregnant regardless, and then the data doesn't support that, well, I'm gonna just keep on believing it anyway. No, it doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. Okay? So in closing, sisters, y'all need some help. Let us help you. Find a man. I'm not saying that all men are worthy of you, but you better start tapering your expectations of men. Stop this whole, he got to make a boatload of money. He got to be super duper tall. And he got to make my eyes curl. He's got to make my eyes roll in the back of my head 100% of the time. Look, a good man doesn't have to be all of that. A good man is supposed to provide a place to stay. A good man is supposed to provide food to eat. And a good man is supposed to make you feel safe. That's really what a good man is supposed to do. That extra stuff, that should be on top of it. And it's certainly not a need to have all of that extra stuff, but it's a want. And I understand sometimes when you get in your feelings, your want starts to get skewed to your needs, and your needs, everything is just a need, but it's not so. If you want some extra things and your man's doing the best that he can, help him. Provide the help to do that. All right? So I'm going to wrap it up. Try to keep this under an hour. So listen, make sure that you subscribe to my page. Also, click the notification button so whenever I drop a video, look, I'm going to try to, I have so many things going on, but I'm going to try to be consistently dropping videos. You need to get notifications on it. So it might be something that could change your life. It might be something that could help you in a pivotal time in your life because we're not communicating with each other. We're scattered sheep. So if it's something that I might say to you that might change in your life or whatever the case may be, you want to know that, hit the notification button so you can get the notifications. Make sure you leave a comment in the video. Make sure you share the video. If I didn't say that already, share it with somebody. Share it on your platform. Share it on your news feeds or whatever the case may be. And then also like this video as well, okay? So I hope everybody go forward from here that heard this information and they apply it and make better decisions. And in general, make sure that you are owning up to what the reality is, no matter how you feel about it. And if you want to do something to change the reality, and you got to accept the reality for what it is so you can change it. All right? It's not going to change any other way. I love you.